Hey, this is Niels on Dynasty. Please like, share, and subscribe. Buy some silver, some platinum, some crystallized osmium. Like, share, subscribe. Yeah, be kind, helpful, and grateful. Don't listen to me. Everything I say is be taken as crap. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. This first one's a kind of cool story. After a coup happened, this is France 24 English. I think it's a news station. I'm going to give them a thumbs up. A 300-kilo gemstone found in Madagascar's presidential palace. After the coup that just happened there, they find this gemstone in the palace. I found it to be an interesting story.
Could help solve some of Madagascar's financial issues. The country's military leadership says it found a 300-kilogram emerald rock hidden inside the presidential palace, which was vacated by ousted President André Rajoelina last month.
We've just discovered this incredible national treasure. We don't know why it was brought here. We're ready to work with complete transparency and show that the public service is our priority.
Colonel Michael Ranjanirin was one of the leaders of the military coup that led to Rajoelina's ousting, following widespread popular protests over corruption, poverty, and lack of basic services. He's since been sworn in as president of the transition and has vowed to hand back power to civilian authorities within the next 2 years. On Tuesday, Ranjanirin said the massive gemstone would be analyzed by experts to determine its value and could potentially be sold to help replenish state coffers. A symbolic statement in a country where government officials have long been accused of enriching themselves with public resources.
Most every African country out there does that. That is why we stopped all aid to Africa, because about 90% of it was going in their culture. In some of those countries, they have like second, third, fourth wives, and that's a show of wealth. So when they started getting this fund, free money from the United States several decades ago, they diverted it into their own coffers and started getting second, third, fourth wives, second, third, and fourth houses, these leaders. And that is why we stopped funding Africa, because it was funding the leaders, just like this president who was ousted, who apparently had a 300-kilogram gemstone in his private palace that belonged to the people. Weird, huh?
We want to redistribute the wealth to as many people as possible in order to avoid accusations of corruption. This discovery will be managed with complete transparency and visibility.
Despite its vast natural wealth, including precious stones and minerals such as quartz and graphite, Madagascar remains one of the world's most impoverished countries, with more than 75% of the island's population living below the poverty line.
Nothing more American.
Yeah. Now we're going to go to a subject I like to talk about. It's called space. And why do I like to talk about space? Because there's a lot of space stuff going on. I've been talking about it for about 2 years, space money. And people have been going, yep, he's a nutcase, he's a nutcase, he's a nutcase. Well, let's see who else is nutcases. This is Sabine Hossenfelder. Let me give her a thumbs up. What's this title? Big Tech wants to build data centers in space. Does it make sense? Huh, interesting. So now Big Tech's saying, this is about 2 hours old. Again, Sabine Hossenfelder. I suggest you guys subscribe to her. She's funny as shit. Let's see what her analysis say about stuff being built in space.
In space. That's the most recent technology to excite Silicon Valley. Jeff Bezos believes that we'll have data centers in orbit in 10 years or so. Eric Schmidt, former CEO of Google, recently confirmed he bought a rocket company to help launch computing infrastructure into orbit. And Elon Musk thinks that within 4 to 5 years, the least expensive way to do AI computing is with solar-powered satellites in orbit.
So let me just state right off the bat, that's 3 multi-billionaires saying, yeah, Neil's right. We're going to start doing stuff in space. They're talking about data centers. I've always talked about space mining, but space mining, data centers, it's evolving our economy into outer space, and that is coming.
Let's have a look.
I think even perhaps in the 4 or 5 year time frame, the lowest cost way to do AI compute will be with solar-powered AI satellites. So I'd say not more than 5 years from now.
Putting data centers into orbit sounds like a good idea. For one thing, there's lots of sunlight up there, so you get power for free. You just need to put the satellites in what's called a sun-synchronous orbit that stays in the sun almost the entire year. This is, I think, why Elon Musk is so enthusiastic about it. Another advantage is that you don't have to find land to build on. No one's around to complain about the noise. And if you're up there already, you can beam down data across the globe. Best of all, space is cold, very cold, so you don't have to worry about cooling. But there are downsides too. Most obviously, you have to get the material up into space, and that's neither cheap nor easy. If something goes wrong, you can't go and fix it. And the cooling isn't as simple as it sounds. This is because on Earth, the easiest way to cool a processor is to blow air across it to transport off the heat. You can't do this in outer space. More generally, there are 3 types of cooling: conduction, convection, and radiation. Conduction means heat moves through solid materials, for example, from a chip to a metal plate. Convection means the heat is carried by moving fluids or gases, and radiative cooling means the heat is emitted as infrared light. In space, convection doesn't work because there's no air. And the problem with radiative cooling is that it needs a large surface area to work efficiently. So the plans for space-based data centers are either to use convection to transport the heat through metal to a big panel, the radiator, that gives the heat off into space, or to circulate some sort of fluid, ammonia, or some sort of refrigerant to transport the heat, and then again radiate it off into space. That's doable, but basically that space is cold isn't as much of an advantage as you may think. The second issue is cosmic radiation and solar wind. Both will rain highly energetic particles down on the data centers. This can both permanently damage microchips and it can lead to errors during data processing. To deal with that, for one thing, you want the satellites to be in low Earth orbit, like Elon Musk's Starlink satellites, because there isn't quite as much radiation there. But also, the computers need shielding, and some use radiation-hardened chips. These have a thicker insulation and larger transistors that makes them more sturdy, but also slower, like me, but without the German accent. Then there is the question of what space computing even makes sense for. If you have data collected by satellites that you want to process up there before sending it down to Earth, that makes a lot of sense because the satellite Earth link has a low bandwidth compared to what we can do on the ground. Information processing in a data center on Earth can now be done at a speed of more than a terabit per second. The best satellite to Earth links are currently in the range of 1 gigabit per second. That's a factor 1,000 slower. So yeah, processing data up there makes a lot of sense. For the same reason, however, it doesn't make sense to do anything up there which requires a lot of data from the ground. Like if you...
Well, see, now I hear her talking about this, and you heard the negatives, the 1 gigabyte transfer power per second. And what I see is opportunities for companies to step in and innovate. And if you look at the field of electronic information transfer, was this new thing about using laser beams. And laser beams can carry a lot of terabytes of information real fast, real accurately. It's kind of like instead of having a cable for cable TV, you have a, what are those other style of line? Fiber optic. So laser communications and data transfer is like using fiber optic compared to, you have mail, AOL's wired system. So there is that technology coming about. So I would say invest in the technologies that would make it able to transfer information from space to Earth a lot faster and a lot more information packages faster. Because if these big billionaires, and Elon Musk now a trillionaire, are saying it's going to happen, well, you can deny it all you want. It's going to happen. It's just you don't see a pathway for it to happen right now. The pathway is there's a lot of smart people hear this and say, hey, what can we do to get something going to take care of that problem? Because they want it solved within 5 years. That means we'll be mega rich if we can solve that problem within 5 years. That's what I see.
You were thinking of doing AI training up there, that won't work unless we see a massive upgrade in the satellite to Earth bandwidth. That said, there are a bunch of startups and governmental projects working on space-based computing already. In the US, a startup called StarCloud recently launched a satellite with an NVIDIA H100 chip on board. That's one of the fastest AI chips currently available. The StarCloud CEO, Philip Johnston, said in 10 years, nearly all new data centers will be built in outer space. The company Axiom Space is working on orbital data nodes focused on government use, likely including secure data handling and defense applications. But the most ambitious project so far comes from Google, which just announced Project Suncatcher, which aims to build a space-based AI cluster. They plan to link dozens of satellites with ultra-high-speed laser links, potentially reaching 10 terabits per second. They want to launch 2 prototype satellites by early 2027. And by 2030, when you wonder, where did I put this file? Maybe the answer is somewhere above Madagascar. Science is beautiful, let me show you. This is a star map of the night sky of last year's solar eclipse, which I watched in Canada. It's a lovely way to remember that event. And with Christmas coming up, maybe you can think of someone who would...
Yeah, okay, she's just selling stuff now, and she's welcome to. Again, it's Sabine Possum Def, whatever her name is. I suggest you subscribe to her. Good information comes from her, and it's humorous, in my opinion. And let's see, another reason to go to space. Let's see. I'm big on this space shit because it's happening right now. It's the time you need to be investing in it before it becomes mainstream media. Well, here is another thing about space and billionaires throwing money at it. This is CNET, the resource that makes going to the moon worth it. Huh, I wonder what resource that is. I bet you it's hydrogen-3.
So valuable it could ignite a 21st century gold rush.
A mineral so valuable it could start a 21st century gold rush on the moon. Interesting. I'm glad I've been talking about this. Hope everyone else does. Oh, no, they haven't been. You're the first ones to hear it if you've been listening to me for the past couple of years.
Reported value of $20 million per kilogram. This material is roughly 150 times more valuable than gold due to its potential use in fusion power plants, cooling for quantum computers, and its current use in detecting attempted smuggling.
Use for quantum computers. That I just brought you a story that Elon Musk and all the big billionaires are going to be making in space. This resource that's going to be mined on the moon can be used in outer space, so it never even has to come back to Earth to be used, to be a monetary asset, which makes it cheaper than platinum mining. Because platinum mining, you drop this stuff back on Earth. Hydrogen-3, you don't have to. They'll be using it in space. Cheaper to get to your customer if you're mining on the moon.
Of nuclear materials for national security purposes. Seattle-based startup Interloon is one of a handful of space resource extraction companies aiming to harness this material to establish a lunar economy. It has designed a prototype to extract it from the moon's surface and a plan to bring it home. This is the story of helium-3, why the moon is a good place to get it, and what that harvest might look like. There's a new space race brewing with the establishment of a long-term presence on the moon being the finish line. NASA's Artemis program is developing key infrastructure to go back to the moon and stay, which has created an opportunity for companies like Interloon to bring their own technologies and business plans to the table.
So that allows us to focus on 4 core technologies. We will need to excavate large volumes of lunar soil or regolith. We'll need to mechanically process that material, and then we need to separate the helium-3 from the other gases.
The company has built a full-scale prototype excavator with the help of Vermeer, makers of industrial and agricultural machinery, that is currently testing on Earth. But with the moon's lower gravity, lack of atmosphere, and unique soil composition, there are several different factors at play that Interloon needs to optimize for.
We do the testing in full scale, we do it in subscale, in parabolic airplanes that simulate lunar gravity, test it with simulated lunar regolith, and we also test it in vacuum. Each of those things had very important impacts on the result.
Hollywood has already imagined what this could look like. Sam Rockwell starred in a sci-fi film about helium-3 mining entitled Moon.
Over and out. Rock and roll. God bless America.
And it's portrayed as far from glamorous work. Interloon plans for its helium-3 extraction process to be completely automated, so people won't actually need to be up there working the machines.
And what that means is your kid who's in the basement right now playing PlayStation games will have a job, because instead of playing PlayStation games, he can be remote operating a mining vehicle on the moon. Wow, is that a new career? Holy cow. So we're going to get rid of the milk delivery man and the ice man and come up with new jobs. Wow, who saw that coming other than me?
Control on Earth that's monitoring, and in some cases taking control, teleoperating from Earth.
Interloon's first trip to the moon is planned for next summer with Astrolab, one of the companies competing to build the lunar lander. Interloon also has a follow-up mission scheduled for 2027. Deliveries of helium-3 are set to begin in 2029, and Interloon already has agreements with companies like Maybell and Bluefors, which need helium-3 for building the chandelier-like dilution refrigerators that cool quantum computers to near absolute zero so they can function. If you want to see a full video on how and why quantum computers need to be so ridiculously cold, let us know down in the comments.
We want to bring back 10 kilograms per year from the moon. So we want a 10x domestic production. You want to divide that up into multiple full deliveries to manage risk and also to deliver to the supply chain when you have it.
Interloon says it's also going to be using its helium-3 extraction process to harvest helium-3 from Earth, but Earth's supply of helium-3 is extremely limited. The primary way Earth's supply of helium-3 increases is through the decay of tritium, a radioactive isotope of hydrogen used in things like nuclear reactors, fusion reactors, and weapons.
Hey, is that why we're storing all that stuff in Yucca Mountain? Because it's actually creating helium-3 as it degrades? Interesting question.
Tritium itself is also very scarce and expensive, costing tens of thousands of dollars per gram. On the other hand, the helium-3 on the moon was made by the sun and deposited on the lunar surface via the solar wind over billions of years. Solar wind is a stream of charged particles emitted by the sun that can cause damage to earthly technologies like power grids, satellites, and communications networks. Earth's magnetic field acts like a powerful shield against the solar wind, which benefits us in many ways. But it is also part of what makes helium-3 so scarce and valuable here on Earth.
Once we have a fleet of harvesters on the moon that's extracting helium-3, we want to go get other things. We want to go get propellant like water and make rocket propellant. We want to get rare earth metals. That's not our go-to-market, is because the only thing that's expensive enough to warrant going to space and bring it back to Earth is helium-3 right now. We want to use that to start an in-space economy.
Interloon says it considers its extraction process harvesting instead of mining.
Ideally, we'd like to take out the valuable helium-3, put the material back in the trench, and leave it looking like a tilled field.
Other countries and companies are also expressing interest in the moon's helium-3 reserves. The Chinese Lunar Exploration Program has returned helium-3 from the moon with plans to go back. Japanese company iSpace is also focused on extracting helium-3 from the lunar soil.
But the law, the Space Resources Act of 2015, says that a U.S. flagged company can go to the moon or any planetary body, extract resources, and bring them back to Earth to sell. The key is that that we move quickly enough to establish our right to operate. Other countries are going to go, and they're going to establish presence. If we don't get there in a reasonable time frame, we could lose our right to operate on our moon.
What do you think about the race to mine helium-3 on the moon? Let us know down in the comments and subscribe for more stories that make you say, what the future?
On this episode of What's Going On with Shipping, China has signed the largest domestic shipbuilding contract in history. I'm your host, Sal Mercogliano. Welcome to today's episode. So if you follow this channel, you know we talk a lot about shipbuilding, commercial shipbuilding. One of the biggest countries out there shipbuilding today is China. We have focused a lot on the United States trying to get its anemic commercial shipbuilding industry up and running. Well, on the flip side of that, China just announced a whopping order for ships. We're going to take a look at that and the background regarding it. If you're new to the channel, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to be alerted about new videos as they come out. Here's the story by Mike Schuller over at GCaptain. The China State Shipbuilding Corporation, the CSSC, has signed the largest domestic shipbuilding contract in Chinese history, securing an order for 87 vessels worth approximately 50 billion yuan, or 7.1 billion US dollars, from the China Costco Chinese Overseas Shipping Corporation.
Well, that went over. Sorry, I had to go deal with cat issues. What's up, Jeffro? Let's go. I think I got one more. Oh, this is a good one. This is Fox News. Massive fraud bombshell rocks Washington after $200 billion of taxpayer money lost on fraudulent Obamacare.
Of healthcare and find solutions that
That's our
actually
money.
reduce costs. But as Democrats have made clear with this, quote, clean bill, they're not really after healthcare solutions. They seem to be okay with a 90% fraud rate. They're after a political issue to attempt to batter Republicans with during this next election year.
That's Senate Majority Leader John Thune criticizing the Democrats' health care plan, accusing the party of prioritizing politics over real reform, as Obamacare subsidies are set to expire by the end of the year. The Senate expected to vote as early as Thursday on the Democrats' proposal, which extends those tax credits for 3 years. Some Senate Republicans are backing an extension with income limits and anti-fraud measures. Others favor giving money directly to Americans through health savings accounts. Joining me now is Montana Congressman Troy Downing, a member of the House Financial Services Committee. Congressman, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. And I know the House Speaker is expected to introduce a House-backed health care plan later this month. What can you tell us?
Well, first of all, I just want to point out that, the big conversation has been about the enhanced premium tax credits, or the Obamacare credits. And the problem with that, if they're allowed to expire, premiums go up. If it's extended, premiums go up. It's already baked into the system. And a lot of people don't understand that these filings happened months ago. The open enrollment period is effectively closed for the 2026 calendar year, and that's already baked into these premiums. And so if we extend it for 6 months, no effect. If we extend it for a year, it really has no effect for the 2026 premium year unless we go through the whole process now that everybody's already purchased their insurance on the marketplace. And just to be clear, this is only for folks that are purchasing their health care on the marketplace. This doesn't affect small group, large group, any of the other classes. It's just for that individual market. And these prices it's already baked in for the 2026 calendar year. So if we did, let's say, a 2-year extension, we would have to go through the whole process of allowing the payers, the insurance companies, to refile new rates with these premium tax credits extended. And then we would have to open up a whole nother open enrollment period. So when's that going to be? January, February, March? I mean, we're already into the premium year. I mean, the whole thing is a mess. But one thing I will say that Leader Thune was talking about is we need to have a good faith effort on both sides of the aisle. We need to get the Democrats to come and not politicize this, because we all agree on one thing. The Democrats and the Republicans all agree that the Affordable Care Act, that Obamacare, has been a complete failure, and nothing has done more to raise the costs of health care and health insurance than the Affordable Care Act. And it's really easy to understand why. You added, coverages, the essential health benefits, you added coverages to the insurance companies were required to cover, and that raised prices. And as you raise prices, healthy people come off because they don't want to pay that additional price. And that's called adverse selection. It concentrates the risk, so that makes the expenses for the insurance company go up. And you get into this spiral of constantly prices going up, more people coming off, and it's not the people that really need it, it's the people that are healthy, and that's the spiral we're in. So we need to have good faith conversations with our colleagues on the other side of the aisle on what we can do to address costs, and that's one part of the conversation that nobody's talking about.
And there you go, cost. Obamacare raised costs for everyone. That's why you should never vote on a bill before you read it. Oh, that was Nancy Pelosi said that, right? That was good old Nancy. Hello? Hey, I think it's an electrical issue. I had her turn her heater on and the gas was working. but it had like our hot water heater has a white blinking light. Like right now, it's blinking, and from that blinking, it's got a service thing on the side that tells you, what that blink means, how far it's apart, 1 blink, 2 blink, 3. There's no blinking. That blinking light's not even on. So I don't think there's electricity going to the thing. So that means probably that picture I sent you when she set all her stuff down there probably hit that box and knocked some wires loose. But I can't get in there and do that wiring stuff because I don't want to. That'll like. But it's an electrical issue. It's. Well, he should know about it because when they put it in, they do that part of the electrical stuff, even though it's electrical, but it's part of the water heater. So no one's ever had to bring in an electrician and a plumber for a water heater. So I imagine they know how to do the little stuff that's inside that box. And I just think a wire or two came loose because the auto start doesn't work.
Sergio and have him hook up with them and have him get over there and take a look at it. Well, I appreciate your help, Neil.
Sorry, I couldn't do more. All right, bye-bye. Sorry about that, guys. Did a small little job earlier this morning to get some money up. That was the lady I did the job for, and I let her know what was going on. But anyhow, yeah, I just wanted to bring these reports about space and how billionaires and the only trillionaire in the world are all saying they're going to be putting data centers and processing centers and all this other stuff. And there's companies already out there making prototypes to mine helium-3 off the moon. So how far stretched is it that for the past couple of years I've been saying we're going to mine platinum when Aster Forge has already got a design and a plan going to mine platinum in space? The shit's coming, people. Space, I mean, if you want to believe we're on a flat Earth, good for you. We're still going to space. You think we never made it to the moon? Good for you. We're still going to space. Every billionaire out there is telling you. The guy who sold all of his Ripple, one of the Ripple founders, about 6, 7, 8 years ago, however long ago it was, he sold $2.2 billion worth of XRP and got bought out basically. He's building a private space station to replace the International Space Station. The Google, who's that? Jeff Bezos is building a private space station. Elon Musk is going to be building a private space station on top of all these other space building operations and mining operations that will be going on. Actually, the Obama Library looks exactly like what it is. It's basically a communistic architecture. It's meant to make it look strong and powerful and industrial and to make you feel like an enslaved worker. And the Obama Library looks exactly like an industrial slave machine that when you enter it, you feel like a little peasant worker. And that was the whole intent and purpose of that. It should be torn down. He was an illegitimate president in my book. I think he was totally illegally elected because he didn't meet the criteria to run for office, shall we say that. All the paperwork showing that he's an actual American citizen. Well, if he is an actual citizen, I saw paperwork with him in college applying for foreign student aid. So that would be a felony. So if he is a citizen, he committed a felony in college, which disavows him the opportunity to run for president. So if we go through everything, I think we'll find out he was the biggest fraud, fake POTUS in the history of America. But that's just my individual personal perspective and individual feelings and individual opinion. A lot of other people hold that opinion too, but I'm only expressing mine. It's not a representation of Google or Yahoo. Please don't give me a straight, guys. All right, anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and end this because it's the middle of the day and not too many people showed up. I just wanted to put that stuff out about how many multi-billionaire and only trillionaire on the planet are all talking about building in space. Like I've been talking about for 2.5 years. I try to get you guys the information so you can make investments before it happens, a year or two. I'm not stupid. I'm just too premature. You guys have a great day.